G'day, Lindsay here. This is our first in a training series of videos that I'm going to start putting out on specific areas of the US investing and strategies, things that are working within the market right now. I'm going to put together a little series, so keep an eye out each week. I'm going to launch another one of these, so you're in for a bit of a treat. All this information and much, much more is available in our Fix and Flip Academy. So if you want any information about how to get access to that, yell out, reach out to us as well. There'll be some links, I'm sure, wherever you're watching this. So what I want to do, first of all, for this episode, I want to talk about one of the most common questions I get asked, and that is, where is a good place to invest in the US? Now, generally what I try to do is I actually hesitate to answer that question. And the main reason for that is because I don't want to give my prejudices onto someone else's opinion on where they should be looking to invest. The truth is, the US is a huge continent, similar sort of size to Australia. They use most of their land space. You could really literally throw a blanket over 30, 40 states, hundreds of cities, thousands of opportunities. So the options are huge. They really are. Unlike Australia, where we really only got 3 capital cities that are giving any good growth, in the US, you could literally pick anywhere and find good areas and bad areas. So, I personally started in Michigan. I love Michigan. I worked a long time for General Motors Holden here in Australia. So therefore I had a bit of an affinity for that. So one of the first things I recommend is see if there's a place within the US that you have a bit of an affinity for, something that maybe you love country music. So maybe Nashville's a place you might want to start, or blues, so like Memphis. Maybe you love car racing, so Indianapolis, or bourbon, so starting Kentucky or Tennessee. So, these are sort of things that you can look at. Maybe you've got family and friends there. When you do find a state, and that's where I guess you can start putting your emotional hats on and try and find something that you've got a bit of an affinity for, or some place in the US that resonates with you. But once you do find that, you want to narrow down and use some solid due diligence to find good areas. So that's what I want to go through here really quickly. All right. So what I'll do, I'll share my screen. I've got a tablet here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run through 5 key areas that we look at when we're investing, looking at an area to invest, and how to break it down into. Actually, I'll show you 6, because there's one I think that's important, because without that, I guess the other 5 don't matter. So let me share the screen. Here we go. Okay. So hopefully you can see my tablet there. Now what I'll do is, let's bring up a sketch pad here. All right, no problem. Okay, so first and foremost, and again, as I said, I'll go into 6 different areas here, but the first one I think, which I sort of treat a bit separately, but let me have a look at this first. Oops, sorry. Okay. And the first one is affordability. And I think, this is critical, because without affordability, you can't afford the market. And the market could be great, the deals there can be fantastic, it can be an amazing place to invest, but if you can't afford to invest there, then it's a moot point. So I think affordability is probably one of the first things you want to look at. So, and I do a lot of, I harp back on strategy a lot, and I talk a lot about strategy. But this is why strategy is one of the most important things, because the first thing you've got to do is you've got to know how much it is, how much capital you're going to invest into your business to invest in the US. So that's the first and foremost thing. Part of your strategy is how much capital are you looking to invest. So you want to find an area that matches the capital investment you're interested in. You need to also understand that if you're looking at buying distressed properties and doing them up, you're going to want to make sure you have enough capital to cover the renovation costs as well as the purchase costs. Okay, so that's an important key point. So affordability, I guess, is number one. You want to make sure that the properties for sale in the area you're looking at are affordable for you so that you can buy them. All right, so second point. Now, and this is where it really starts to get, you're starting to really do some investigation now. And this is what I call infrastructure. One of the key points is the city or the, and I'll put here growth, the city or major corporations in any area spend millions of dollars doing research in areas to find where the growth areas within their city, within their county, within their state are. A classic example, and I was just mentioning Michigan before, I happen to know that within the boundary of Detroit, at the state fairgrounds, the city of Detroit has just leased the whole entire state fairground to Amazon for them to build a distribution center on. Now, that's what I call infrastructure growth. So an area like that, someone like Amazon is going to spend multiple millions of dollars investigating where would be the best place for them to build this area. They're certainly not going to do it in a depressed area. They're certainly not going to build it in a dangerous area. They're going to do all of their due diligence, and trust me, they'll have a floor full of people that are going to be looking at this, and that's where they've chosen. So what I like to do is I like to piggyback off the back of their millions of dollars of investment. And if they think it's a good area to invest, then I'm going to be having a look in it as well. Now, once again, you've got to go back to point number one and make sure that it's affordable. But, you know, that's the sort of thing. Where are there new hospitals being built? Where's there new universities, schools? Where is new bridges, new freeways going through? These are the sort of the infrastructure growth that the councils, the cities, and the major corporations can be looking at. So this is the stuff you want to be trying to hone in on and find that in the area you're looking at. Now, number three is what we call employment opportunities. Now, as you would know, the US market is highly capitalist. So really in the US, without a job, you're in a bit of trouble. You know, there's no access to healthcare, there's no access to dental, there's no insurances like we have here in Australia. Australia, in our particular case, I think New Zealand's the same, and even a lot of areas of Europe, a lot more sort of socialist side. The US is one of the most highly capitalist societies in the world. So if you don't have a job and you're not making money, you're in a lot of trouble. So the job is everything. People will travel for jobs. People will do whatever they need to do to get a good job. So you want to find an area that's got good employment opportunities, because that's where people are going to want to live, so that they can travel to work without having, you know, long travel times and long commutes. So employment opportunities is another good one. Now, the fourth one here that I put in, and this hinges back to employment opportunities, but it's schools, if I can spell it correctly, and universities, plus healthcare. Now, there's a couple of reasons for this, and the first thing I want to put out is people love to live near hospitals, healthcare opportunities. There's a safety net for them. They feel safer if they're within a short distance, short trip to a hospital. Once again, remember that we're talking a very highly capitalist societies. A lot of people don't have ambulance cover, insurances, etc. So if they're sick, they need to be able to get to the hospital, and they can't rely on an ambulance to take them there. So they don't want to be an hour and a half away from a hospital and trying to get there, particularly if you're talking a northern state of the US, which is under snow, and you're trying to travel an hour in snow to get to the hospital. So people like to live near medical centers, near hospitals, near doctors' surgeries. But the other thing is healthcare is one of the largest employers in the US. Okay, so again, hospitals, doctors' surgeries, medical centers are going to employ a lot of people. Schools and universities, of course, are always been important, even here in Australia. They're important in New Zealand. But in the US, of course, people like to send their kids to good schools because that will give them a good education so they can get a good job, and you can see where the capitalist society comes in again. But also, once again, education sector is one of the largest employers in the US, right? So once again, if you're near a university, there's going to be thousands of people employed in that university. High schools, middle schools are the same. So to some degree, number four can underpin employment opportunities, but they're also areas that people like to live near. I guess going back to employment opportunities, the other thing to be a bit aware of course, is that if you're talking factories, people don't necessarily like to live across the road from a factory. Now, they will live across the road from a school, or they'll live across the road from a healthcare centre, but from a factory, maybe not. So you want to make sure there's this happy medium where you're not right next door to the factory, but maybe you're within a 5-minute, 10-minute radius or something like that, or 15 minutes, or, you know, whatever is a reasonable commute, you know, up to half an hour probably even is reasonable, 20 minutes. So that's now the next two are certainly interlinked. And I just want to go through these really quickly. And number 5, and a lot of people talk about this in the US because it's very different from it is here in Australia and New Zealand, is crime rate. Now, crime rate is certainly something you want to be aware of, and you want to make sure that it is important. But you have to understand that the crime rate in the US is going to be significantly higher than it is in our home countries anyway, right? We're talking about 330 million people within the US. I mean, here in Australia, we have 25 million. I'm not even sure, actually. New Zealand, 5 or 6, I think. So, you know, this is going to be, we're going to see that the crime rate is going to be generally worse than what we would put up with here. What is important is the type of crime. I would certainly try and avoid places that have high, excuse me. I'd certainly try and avoid places that have high violent crime. And I'd certainly try and avoid places that have a lot of drug-related crime. These are generally the more depressed areas. So these are the areas you certainly want to try to avoid. Now, having said that, if you're going to see breaking and entering, you're going to see, you know, vehicle misdemeanors and so on and so forth. I mean, at the end of the day, it is what it is. Now, and number 6, which can go hand in hand with number 5 a little bit, is vacancy rates. Now, again, as we talk about vacancy rates, you know, vacancy rates are going to be high in an area where people don't want to live, and that's how it works. And you don't want to be investing in areas where people don't want to live. You're going to have trouble renting properties. If you can rent the property, you're going to have trouble with the tenants. If you're trying to sell a property to owner occupier, you're not going to have a huge market of people wanting to buy the house if it's in a poor area. So these are important things that you want to keep a look out for. I do find though, and you know, here's where, when I was talking just a minute ago about them interlinking, if I go back into these two here, crime rate and vacancy rate is generally a symptom. Okay, so what I have found here is these are symptoms of these missing. And you'll have to excuse my drawing. If you don't have infrastructure growth, there's no growth in the area, nothing, you know, being built or anything like that. If there's no employment opportunities, there's no healthcare, no schools and universities, then generally you're going to have high crime rate and high vacancy rates. And that's generally how it works. If, on the other hand, you know, and I'll just go back here. If on the other hand, you've got, okay, we've got an area which has got good infrastructure growth, we've got an area which has got good employment opportunities, excellent schools, universities, good healthcare, then generally what you'll find is your crime rate is lower and your vacancy rates are lower, because these are areas that people want to live in. All right. So I hope that helped. Just give you a quick snapshot on how to find a good area. You know, first and foremost, I think emotion is important. Find an area that you have a connection with. But once you've done that, you want to start narrowing down into these 5 or 6 areas here. And again, I've put affordability at the top, because without affordability, you can't afford to invest there. So have a look at those. Hopefully that was helpful, and we'll definitely see you inside the academy.